Hey kiddos, welcome back to the TTP Field Manual podcast. Today, we've got a very fun off-topic episode from the usual topic. Isn't that right, Zakky?
It sure is. Hello, everyone.
Hello, matey-o. Zach, what are we talking about today on this very funky fresh episode of the TTP Field Manual podcast, which normally talks about Warhammer, but today is not?
We have a very exciting episode. Today we're going to be talking about Warframe.
Whoa!
A new, fresh kid on the block that Josh has introduced me to.
That is true. We are going to be talking through the general lore, story, universe, I guess, synopsis of Warframe, which is one of my all-time favorite games to ever exist. It is a sort of action MMO that has been around for over a decade now. I played it for the first time back in about 2016, and at that point, there was but a fraction of what is in the game to this date. And just as the years go by, they just add more and more to the game, expanding the universe, deepening the tapestry of characters and factions, and sort of filling in the blanks about the universe and how it all sort of came to pass. And so, in this sort of crux of not just lore, but also gameplay, where there's so much going on, you've got so many avenues to the game, so many fun Warframes to run around with and weaponry to play with, I've finally managed to convince someone to play it with me, Zach, and it was you.
It only took you 10 years, Josh.
Give or take. No, actually, yep, 10 years. 2016, 2026, oh dear. To be fair, I have convinced a couple of others to play it in the past. Johnny has played this as well, but they just don't stick with it. It's either not their cup of tea or they go and play something else, and that just is more captivating. You've really hit the ground with this game in a way that I was not expecting.
You know what? Pedal to the metal or not at all?
Not at all. How are you enjoying Warframe? What do you like about it?
So I really enjoy the gameplay of the game. I think it's really fun. I don't shy away from games that sort of have you grind up materials and all that. I think that there's like some really cool things that this game does in terms of like taking real time to craft stuff. As you've sort of brought up, it encourages people to step away from the game and let stuff build over time. There are certain sort of generic missions that you can either opt to end or stay in and get bonus rewards, and the enemies gradually get harder and harder. I think that that's actually like a really fun concept and sort of staves off some of the repetitive. Well, actually, I suppose it is still repetitive, but it doesn't. I find that kind of fun, and yeah, I like the gameplay. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's cool, but I'm glad you've been enjoying it. You've slammed into it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Played heaps of it in just a couple of weeks. All the while, you have old voice of wisdom, me in your ear, going, "Oh, what are you stuck with? Oh, okay, this is what you got to do. Oh, that's what that means." And it's been quite fun to sort of walk someone through, because when I first started playing the game, I looked it up. It released in 2013, and supposedly like its earliest days was literally just you and a few Warframes, that sort of maybe a 6 or 7 Warframes that you could choose from, and you basically played against just Grineer in Grineer spaceships, and that was it. I started playing in 2016. I've had many years off along the way, but nowadays the whole sort of solar system has planets with things to it. There are several tiles across that with different missions. There are open world zones. There are narrative quests that have cinematic flair to it. There are actual factions to grind out reputation with to access bigger and better loot. There are New Game Plus modes. There are raids. There's an insane amount of things to this game. But there's also an insane amount of lore, or at least concepts, that at first feels like a lot. Until you start to play more of those newer day cinematic quests, it's a bit like, why am I here? What are we doing? What's this? Who's that? have you been a bit confused by the sort of setting? Do you have much of an awareness of the story? What do you think Warframe's about, Mr. Zach?
I mean, I could get into what I generally think it's about. I have unfortunately skipped a lot of cutscenes, both accidentally and intentionally.
This is why I brought you onto this. This is why I brought you on.
Do you want
You're
me?
like, I'll watch a lore video. I'm like, we'll do it.
Do you want me to just take a stab in the dark?
I would love for you to take a stab in the dark.
So it appears as though there are these, we'll call them children, called Tenno. They are whether they're a race or a creation of gifted children, they exist and they have special powers. I don't know if it's just Tenno compiler Warframes, but yeah, you know what? That's probably my guess.
And you know what? For the longest time, that was considered a lore development that was new. What you just said was considered the, oh my god, they're doing something with the narrative. And as you go through it more, you'll realize that there's a bit more to it all. And it just sort of keeps going. It keeps adding layers to the narrative and connecting threads together. And so that's what today's episode's really going to be about, is a general overview of the universe and the lore, and walking us through the sort of timeline of the setting that is Warframe, and then a bit of a up-to-date sort of recap of the lore from where you first start playing the game, what is realistically going on, and then what sort of happens along the way. Are you excited?
I am excited.
All right, so
Excited to learn.
excited to school's in session.
School's in session. Hell yeah.
But before we get into school is in session, please keep in mind, everybody, that we have ourselves a community Discord. The link will be in the bio of this episode. Come along, come say hi, join in, let me know, and let Zach know if you like Warframe, because we want to play with more people. It will be a lot of fun. Tell us who you main. I main Wisp, because it's because she's got good assets.
And I...
Beyond that, Beyond that, book club. We do a book club every month or two. At the moment, we have Johnny picking our book club. We are doing Matthew Riley's Hover Car Racer, which is also not Warhammer. What are we doing, Zach?
That's all right. You gotta, you know,
Got to spread out.
have a look elsewhere as well. Yeah.
There's a hilarious meme, a Warframe meme, where there's the orbiter, the spacecraft that you are within, and it's a Warframe holding a steering wheel and like drifting towards Saturn. And that's us, like Warframe, we're over there now.
Exciting stuff.
All right, Zach. Warframe, the universe, begins right now.
Like in our current year?
Yeah, basically. Right
Okay,
now.
cool.
Well, technically 1999, Y2K.
Oh, okay.
Y2K will circle back around to Y2K. But basically the whole lifeblood of the Warframe setting begins in actual real world Earth. But Y2K comes around, and you know the Y2K panic that gripped the world, the whole 1999 into the year 2000, everything would go wrong. The
Yes.
nuclear bombs would go off or something to that effect. Yeah, so stuff like that actually did sort of happen in an sort of unknown period of time. From Y2K onwards, there were a series of at least 18 wars of radiation where the various people of what would be called ancient Earth, so
Oh, wow.
our time, would just begin nuking each other. About 18 times to be exact. That doesn't sound like something that could happen, right? No, not at all.
No, definitely not something that could happen in the near future. Not at all. No.
And then from the ashes of such a societal collapse came what would become the Orokin, the Orokin civilization. The Orokin were basically the next sort of link in the chain of human evolution. By all accounts, they were humans, but the Orokin Empire, who began by colonizing the moon, as time would go on, the Orokin civilization would become super invested into things such as biotechnology, gene manipulation, cloning technology, transferring of consciousness from one body to another, and things of that nature. And so they had this sort of pseudo Eldari, if you wanted to make a Warhammer equivalent, where their civilization was prospering because no one was really dying. They could cure sickness, they could transfer societal elites from one body to the next. Labor forces were able to just be cloned, and that's it. You had enough labor forces to do whatever you wanted. Some of their buildings and various architecture was a combination of bioorganic material and technological structure. And so buildings were able to sort of like heal themselves and repair themselves. And so you were starting to see an extreme aristocratic, almost feudalistic class system with big honchos at the top and then progressively less important people as it went down. But you're going to run out of people run out of space for your people, right? You're going to run out of resources eventually, right? Of course. So what do you do, Zach? What do you do in such an occurrence? Let's say you're the Orokin. What would you do in this moment? You got too many people.
You move to another planet.
Well, what if you've already done all the planets?
You create a planet. There's a guy. What do you do, Joshua?
So you decide to create a bunch of technological, sort of techno-organic beings that you send out and about to the next solar system, and you have them begin to terraform it and get it ready for eventual expansion, right?
Of course.
That's what you do.
No-brainer.
Of course, that's what you do. No-brainer. So while you are sitting high and mighty in your citadels with your opulent structures, your art, your culture, your extravagance,
music,
you have created the eldritch horrors known as the Sentients.
Okay.
Now you've started to see the Sentients, haven't you, as you've been playing?
I believe so.
You believe so? Yeah, they're at where you are. They wouldn't be super present, but they are starting to appear. They're the fellows that become really immune to various damage. You have to keep damaging them with different types of damage to make sure damage keeps getting through, like different elements, different like slash
Gotcha.
and impact and fire and cold, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And so the Sentients were sent out ahead to go to this solar system that would be called Tau, the Tau system. I know, but Tau, it's a real solar system. Tau Ceti has appeared in other things recently, such as Marathon. Tau, I think, was even where they went to in Project Hail Mary. Tau is just a relatively used concept in science fiction, but the galaxy of Warframe is very one-to-one of ours. It's just alternate reality kind of things. But the Sentients are sent ahead of the human expansion or the Orokin society expansion, and then off they went. But they were basically given this sort of flaw because the Sentients could adapt to all sorts of damage and flaw. They can repair themselves, they use chemical reactions to rebuild themselves. And so being able to adapt to things like the void of space, poor planetary conditions, some of the Orokin were like, they might come back to us, right? But the people who created them gave them the flaw that if they traveled through what would be known as the void, which is totally not the warp.
It's different.
It's totally not the warp. It's totally not the warp. If they traveled through it, they would lose their ability to procreate. Simple as that.
Oh, okay.
The void energy would just render them, wouldn't work.
The sectumified.
Yeah, if you would like. And so the Sentients, they go out and they realize that while they are there doing all this for a race that had kind of began to doom their own solar system, they would just do that here. They would use and abuse the Sentients. And so the Sentients decided, F it, we ball, and rebelled against the Orokin. The Sentients, under the leadership of a particular sentient named Hunhao, who you've met, He is the first that you really get introduced to. He's the dude buried in the water planet.
Okay.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Genuinely no.
Stop skipping dialogue, Zach. No worries. So their leader, Hunhao, basically would organize them, workers' union, workers' revolt. Away we go, and we are going to go back to the Orokin and take over ourselves. How's that for a setup to begin with?
It's good.
It's good. Good, solid science fiction.
It is. No, I was just gonna say I like the setting. It has a good amount of like mixing both somewhat real life events or what we predicted would happen with the Y2K stuff with, some more far-fetched sci-fi elements. I like that. That's good.
Well, we're now going to get into the vaguely Warhammer territory as we shift the camera over to a unfortunate incident that was known as the Zariman 10-0 incident. So, whilst the Sentients were off doing their whole terraforming of a whole solar system, several within the Orokin society were like, this is taking too long. Can we get a move on with this? And so their scientists and the best of them actually created a giant spaceship that would be able to take the human people through the void and arrive on the other side. A Tau, basically a warp jump.
Right.
However, this didn't go well. The Zariman ship went through the void. I almost said warp. It went through the void on its way to Tau. However, at some point inside the void, on their way to Tau, all of the various adults on board start to lose their mind. They start to go absolutely crazy as all of the children began to hide themselves in their various classrooms and stuff like that. There was a deal made with an eldritch entity that is only known as the Man in the Wall.
Oh, okay.
He's here. So the Man in the Wall basically is an eldritch deity of unknown scale or identity, only that he just sort of lingers in his essence vaguely in the void. And when you come before him, he acts as a copy of you. And so some of the children start to see themselves, and it's a more unhinged version of themselves, but offers a deal. Do you want to survive? Obviously, some of the children say yes, and they start to develop these void-related powers in a bit of self-defense. The children were effectively forced to start killing all the various adults that were trying to get them. And so the ship itself eventually relocates back into real space. But of course, all of these children are super traumatized from that whole experience.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound good. From this point, the Orokin basically hid these children away, and they started to call them unofficially void demons. But they would also start to call them Tenno, as in 10-0 from the ship, the Zariman 10-0. And so these would be the Tenno. Now, short while later, the Sentients have made their arrival in the Origin system, as it is called, our solar system. And what they were quickly realizing, the old Orokin, were that the Sentients were able to adapt to all of their various conventional weaponry. The various clone soldiers that they had that were named Grineer were not able to defeat them. They were ineffective. The merchant cults of the Corpus were getting rich as all get up off of this war profiteering thing. There were several scientists that were trying to figure out ways to sort of counteract the Sentients. Some of the earliest scientists started to develop what were called necromechs. You've seen those?
I have, yep.
Basically large mecha platforms with big guns and void shields and some sort of immunity to damage. But as this was not also, effective, they kept digging and digging and digging and trying to figure out ways to defend against the Sentients, to the point where some of the scientists started to dabble into all this old esoteric knowledge of all their biogenetic modification stuff, right? And they find some stuff that was just vaguely referred to as the infestation. And this infestation is essentially a bioplague that reanimates dead bodies and biological masses into this sort of zombie-like hive mind, offers extreme resilience to the host organism, makes them just quite savage. And there was a particular individual in the Orokin hierarchy called Ballas. Ballas would begin to experiment on various Orokin warriors and other various subjects. And his research into the infestation led to him splintering it off, curating a strain of the infestation called the Helminth. The Helminth, when applied to the various Orokin individuals, would start to transform their bodies, would start to transform their skin into these sort of hard, rocky pellets. It would turn their insides into these sort of biomechanical organ, steel, fibery kind of constructs, and effectively creating a whole new species. And this is what would become Warframes. These infested Orokin guys and girls. And they would be put to the test of fighting the Sentients with their extreme resilience to damage, their very much superhuman skill sets with movement and just general fighting, and esoteric powers that began to arise as each individual had this sort of unique quality to them, kind of like the outside reflects the inside kind of vibe.
Right.
How are you feeling about it so far? Is it making some sense?
Okay. A little. You're putting all the puzzle pieces out in front of me, and you've splayed them out in such a neat order, and so I'm definitely putting them together.
You're figuring it all out?
Oh yes, totally on my own, solo.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Simultaneously to all of this, another of the high-ranking individuals alongside those such as Ballas was a woman named Margulis. Margulis had a bit of a soft spot for all of those Tenno Zariman incident children, and basically started to work with other sort of geneticist individuals that she knew, because most of the Orokin elite were scientists of some nature, which is how they got so powerful, because you want me in charge because I'm the one that's going to keep you alive, And she decided to basically seek out a means for these Tenno children to harness their powers. She came up with this sort of dream limbo-like state where the Tenno children could be in this sort of subconscious limbo and leach out through this sort of transference technology to leach out their mind to control various constructs and leverage their own void power through the vessels, leaving them safe in their own sort of shells or cocoons or whatever you want to call them, whilst controlling things far away from them. And this proved particularly helpful because a lot of the Warframes were just feral, absolute savages. There were such members as Rhino, the original Rhino, a hardy, very tough Warframe who was able to escape his confines in a science lab and basically massacred everyone on the way out in this sort of feral, animalistic roar as they're just killing and killing and killing with no real sanity of mind. And so every single Warframe that you come across in the game, which there's over 60 that you can play, are essentially keyed to an original. For the purposes of the game, they are replicas, but each Warframe had an original identity. Certain Warframes maintain a semblance of, how would I put it, like independence, and could retain a semblance of their mind. There's one quest where a Warframe is this sort of almost werewolf-like character that almost haunts the player, and when you actually craft the Warframe, they snap out of the arsenal and start to put you in a chokehold. Like, it completely forceful breaks the game, but it's because this Warframe was able to remember itself, and by going through their memories, you actually see that Ballas and the slow corruption of the person into this Warframe and all the absolute insane torture methods that went on in the whole process of creating one of these creatures. And so a lot of the Warframes were basically coerced into being puppeted by the Tenno children. Does that make sense, Zakky?
Yes, that definitely does make sense. So, okay, so the Warframes originally, so the Warframes you play as in game are clones of the original. They are more or less a biomechanical mutation of humanoid creatures that are animalistic. Cool. All right. Yep.
Excellent. So, at some point in all of this, Margulis became almost too defensive of her Tenno children. Whenever the various Orokin elite tried to push them into doing a bit more, she would push back. And eventually, she would do these various activities that would lead to her being branded as an apostate. And she would unfortunately become executed.
Damn.
And this was when the Tenno children were then further militarized because their, protective mother figure was no longer around because she was executed. Bye-bye, baby. And so the Tenno were essentially militarized into controlling a lot of the Warframes and becoming this absolute weapon of war, being trained in how to fight, how to wield weapons, how to shoot, and all of that stuff. And for the most part, the Orokin, now with the Tenno, were having a lot of success until there was a bit more of a civil war, because there's always a civil war, right?
Always.
So throughout the conflict, there would be such moments as like peace treaties, which is actually a very recent addition to the lore. It's the latest main quest, is that your Tenno character actually has reflections of this memory that was suppressed to them, because there actually was a time where the Orokin and the Sentients had a peace treaty, and various Tenno children were actually sent to the Tau system in a combined school where all the various sentient children, the Tenno children, were sort of co-taught, co-trained as this sort of blueprint for, hey, look, we can work together, until various members of the Orokin sabotaged the whole thing and brought it all crashing down because they didn't want to play nice after all. Almost simultaneously, the fellow we talked about earlier, Ballas, he's a right shitter, this Ballas. He was actually super in love with Margulis, was super head over heels despite himself being this egotistical, arrogant ass. And so he was like super disenchanted with the whole Orokin Empire when Margulis was executed. And he even told her, like, don't keep defending them, they'll kill you. And she's like, no. So he was super disenchanted despite being one of the main scientists that did the whole Warframe thing, trying to retaliate against the Sentients. He turns traitor and works with the Sentients to really turn the tide. And so he allies with the leader of the Sentients, Hunhao, who simultaneously following this sends his daughter off to the solar system of ours to basically become a bit of a double agent, a bit of a spy, if you will. Except this is when it all goes to shit.
Oh, you mean to tell me this is when it all goes to shit?
This is when it all goes to shit. Okay, gotcha. And this is when everything kind of falls into place, right? So we've had the Orokin civilization rise up from the ashes of old Earth and thermonuclear war. We've had the Orokin build up this perfect civilization that's starting to eat its own tail. So they create the Sentients to go out and populate a new system and get it ready. The Sentients decide, F this, they're just going to ruin everything and basically rebel as this sort of technological, biomechanical, Transformer-y hybrid race that was created. They say, nah, father, and they turn traitor. And then a lot of back and forth, which leads to the Orokin weaponizing these warp-tainted children into controlling these biomechanical Warframes. And then the sentient leader sends his daughter to infiltrate the Orokin civilization from within and tear it down. Except, do you remember at the very beginning when I said when sentients travel through the void, they are rendered infertile?
Yes.
Aha. So this made the daughter, whose name is Natar, very sad. When Natar arrived, she infiltrated the high society, as a sort of mimic sentient who could change the reflection of, herself and all of that stuff. And what she ended up doing was impersonating Margulis, who has since been executed. She combined these sort of memory engrams of Margulis with her own brain, and the Tar, combined with Margulis's personality, became a new figure known as the Lotus. Oh. It's coming together now?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of minutia through a lot of this sort of part of the story, which we are going to skim through. But effectively what happens is that the Lotus rallies all of the Tenno children and their various Warframes into a sort of cryo sleep, but only after the Tenno rebelled against the Orokin Empire. Basically, all the various Warframes and Tenno were turned against all the Sentients and won. So the Sentients were out of the picture. The Sentients leader Hunhao was sacrificed in a battle, and his tomb became that of Uranus. Or your anus, Zach.
Whoa,
your
mine.
Anus. Whoa.
Crazy.
And so it is suggested that Ballast, that little shitter, was partially responsible for the sort of reprogramming of Natar into this Lotus figure because he wanted Margulis back.
Oh.
But then Natar decided to be, this sort of more like motherly figure because she couldn't have children. And so all of this, her whole new reality, she firmly believed herself now to be the Lotus. She convinced the Tenno to, finish the job, get rid of all the higher echelons of the sentient command, and then in celebration of their victory against the Sentients, all the high-ranking Orokin fellows were gathered only for the Tenno, under the leadership of the Lotus, to betray the Orokin, motivated in large by the execution of Margulis. Pretty much all of the executors of the high society, all the council members were assassinated. This would be the collapse of the Orokin Empire. The Tenno, controlling their Warframes in one night, did away with the whole civilization's upper echelons.
Damn.
And to protect her children, the Lotus used the Void to move the moon, known as Lua, into the Void to keep it away from sentients who didn't want to use the Void. She pretty much lulled most of the Tenno children into cryosleep. Some Warframes were left alive and free to roam, with certain Warframe individuals such as Grendel being just sort of free agents across the solar system. Certain members such as the Stalker, who is a bit of an antagonist throughout the storyline, they're just free agents effectively of the whole Warframe species, you could call them. And then the sort of galaxy, and well, not galaxy, the whole solar system was kind of left to flounder for a bit because the Grineer, who were a labor force of clones, took this chaos to revolt and steal ships and weapons and take the cloning technologies with them and set up their own bases of operation. The Corpus merchant cults, who were the lower caste of society, decided to basically occupy things and scavenge technology and sell it off and all that stuff. Those two became the main factions across the solar system, the Grineer and the Corpus being the main threats in the sort of initial sort of chapters of the Warframe storyline. And then because the infestation was brought back, occasionally some of that would slip onto some ships, and there's one particular planet in the solar system that became just completely conquered by the infestation with no one left to really, deal with it. And then an indeterminate amount of time passes between then and the game. That was all the prologue, Zach.
Brother, what? That was the prologue chapter? My guy.
To be fair, not a lot of that is actually played through, and a lot of the quests are there to showcase what had happened to bring all this about. But yeah, this is the halftime point. What did you think of that? What did you think of that setup? Are you for it?
I'm assuming that some of the information that you've sprawled out before me is stuff that hasn't necessarily been told to the player at the point that I'm at in the game. Correct?
Correct.
Right. Which is totally fair. But no, very, very cool. I think that the setup, while a little convoluted, is pretty cool. I like it. You know, it's got mixes of like Halo, The Matrix, a little bit of The Void from Warhammer. There was one other one I wanted to mention as well, but it escapes me at the moment. Obviously, you know, these are sci-fi elements that any sort of franchise can use, even though you've sort of brought up the warp from Warhammer. You know, like these are all concepts that every sort of IP steals from. But, you know, definitely some cool concepts in there, which is nice.
Yeah, I think the sort of opening of it all, and a lot of Warframe is built. So obviously we know Warhammer. I almost said Warframe. We know that too.
Warcraft.
We know Warhammer, and they have this sort of backwards way. Yeah, maybe War of the Worlds after. They have this sort of, in Warhammer, a backwards way of creating the story, right? They got the miniatures that they want to sell, right? So then they make a book to get you interested in these characters. A lot of card games and a lot of like action figure stuff back in the day did cartoons, right? It's like a backwards
100%.
way of making the story. Warframe had like none of that plot when it first started. This was all like retroactively created, almost like writing the game backwards.
Yep. Just before you to touch on it, I mean, I would say this is totally not related, but most industries would start that way in terms of like selling toys. It's, oh, this is the toy. What's the story we create around selling it? So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm not super hot on the development history of the game, but it's easy enough to see how they just had this sort of progressive interest from players, and every now and then they're like, oh, well, we can do more. Oh, we're still getting players. Oh, we're still getting financed by the players who are contributing to the game by buying all the cosmetics and stuff. Oh, we can do more. And it's fascinating. Like the next update is a new generation upscale technology for the graphic systems. Like they're going to make it look prettier if you have the hardware to support it.
So,
and this is a game from 2013, and they're just like, they keep adding to it.
Not to blow too much smoke. If anyone listening is interested in trying the game and is still on the fence, from a new player, I would highly recommend it. The gameplay is very fun, and while I have been skipping over the lore, like it is interesting. So definitely give it a try. Hashtag not a sponsor.
Oh, imagine that. Imagine that. The way I try to sort of sell people on the game is that, sure, it's an MMO in the sense that it's a bit expansive in, like, you have to do a lot of grinding, there's a lot of player hubs, that kind of design language of an MMO. But at its core, it's this really pretty much like a PvE action game. And at any given point, you are made to feel like super powerful.
Yeah.
You're playing Warframes. Every single Warframe is powerful. Every weapon can be used. You upgrade everything with mods that you can acquire, and you just hold on to them. You don't need to level up anything beyond a level 30 mark to then have this sort of pool of resources to slot all these little upgrade bits into and make it your own sort of build. And yeah, there are, as you keep playing, there's all these sort of like worlds and tile sets and resources and quests that open up. But there's so much in there that I like to say, just sort of scan the horizon and go pick a destination, pick your task for today. Like today, I'm going to grind out the blueprints for the Rhino Warframe. Or today, I'm going to try out the Deviri game mode. You know, there's always something that can just sort of take your attention and just like go do that. Go enjoy it. You're not on any pressure. You're not in a linear path. No one is yucking your yum. No one is forcing you to be skull dragged. I've got a whole bunch of new Warframes and guns and stuff just to go play at a very similar power level to Zach, just with my knowledge of the game. And so, yeah, it's really fun.
It is very fun. Definitely not a game that you'll speed through. I think I have...
You can't. You physically cannot do it.
Yeah, I probably have, 70 hours? 60, 70 hours. And I am probably not... I'm probably coming up to maybe half of the base game completed. Like the base tile set would be my guess. But beyond that, like there's a lot to do in the game. You might get confused, but you can search online and figure out where to go quite easily. So give it a shot.
Or come to our Discord and I'll help you.
Come to our Discord and ping Josh at Josh, and he will help you. He will drop everything throughout his day just to guide you through.
No, I won't.
No, I won't. Don't do that.
But if I had to shout out a couple of YouTubers who, built a really respectable platform about coaching people through these games and explaining the mechanics of it all, I would say either Warframe Flow or I think his name's MH Blackie. Those are the two fellows that I tend to go check out a fair bit. I will say, though, that a lot of Warframe YouTubers tend to make videos as if you know what's going on. So definitely try and filter things by like a new player experience. Or you might be like, oh my God, I just want to play a game, not do Math C.
Yeah, there is a lot, and you probably will get lost, but you'll find your way through.
Well, shall we add a little bit more to the lore about what sort of happens throughout the game itself?
Well, the story's not done, Joshua. You've got to continue.
The story's not done, Zach. So, back to using Warhammer as a reference point, you know how like in old Warhammer lore, everything kind of happens in the like last few hundred years of the 41st millennium, and nowadays it's like tipped over into the 42nd. But there was this sort of big gap between Horus Heresy and the 30k era and the end of the 40k sort of marker.
A mere 10,000 years or something, yeah.
A mere 10,000 years with a sprinkling of ideas.
Wild.
And so a lot of the elements that I sort of explained, the whole Orokin, the infestation, the sentients, the Tenno, all of that is like the setup. It's the Horus Heresy. And then Warframe, the game, sort of puts you in the 40k. All of a sudden, everything's happening. Everything's beginning to go into cause and effect, right? And I would say the first, like maybe half to 2/3 of the main quests that's available to you as of recording are the like first sort of quests that were introduced throughout the game's life to sort of explain little bits and pieces of like the new areas, the new sort of systems. For example, the Tenno child operator is a character that you can sort of like shift between your Warframe and them. They had to do a couple of quests to be like, this is why, this is how it works. The Archwing, for example, is a space jetpack. That was one of the very first quests ever. And the quests, like the early quests are just very much like MMO style, like go here, kill them. Because this was like the start of the game. And then as you get deeper and deeper in, there's one quest that's literally comes up with a message box that says, this takes hours to complete and you will be locked out of the actual game. Are you ready? And then you get cinematics and stuff like that. And yeah, so it just grows the more you play it. But to sort of run through the opening chapters, the Tenno awake. There is a Grineer captain who's basically going around assassinating all of the Warframes, which at this sort of stage, it's hard to decide if it's Tenno or Warframe. Tenno or Warframe. The Tenno is the child in the moon. The Warframe is the weapons platform that you play as. So you basically start as a Warframe that was dormant. Wakes up, there you go, you're playing. The opening few chapters is like, here's the Grineer. This dude wants you dead. Next quest. This is Teshin. He's an Orokin warrior from way back when who's going to serve as your sensei. Next quest. I'll go to the ship. Whoa! Zombie Grineer. Is this? Oh, it's the infestation. Next quest. This is an Archwing. It lets you fly in space. The next quest. Hold up. What's that? That's a spooky alien kind of thing. What is it? Here's your quest. Go find out. Oh, it's a sentient. Oh, it's a sentient Tenno. They haven't been seen in ages. Oh, it's a sentient. Oh my God, is that Hun Hao, the leader of the Sentients? And then it starts to build out from there, right? And so you're in this sort of arc at the moment, Zach, where the Lotus is like, all right, you've got me. I know more than I'm letting on. Meet me on the moon, I suppose. And then it's revealed to you that how you are being controlled as a Warframe is actually a mind link to your very flesh and bone operator character, which is one of the 10-0 children. From there, you start to use sort of both halves of your, I guess, persona in the various quests. You are introduced to other aspects of the game, such as the Kuva Grineer, which is like the royal elite guard, if you will, of the Grineer who protect the twin Grineer queens. The Grineer queens are once upon a time Orokin that have used the whole cloning system to stay alive throughout the centuries. And then you start to get into sort of more sort of, I guess, darker storylines from then on with, as you just finished, the Chains of Harrow.
Yes.
Where you have to save Rel.
Yep.
So Rel is actually another one of the Tenno children, except Rel, who is actually quite a tragic figure in the lore, was very much a shunned child. Even in the far future of the Orokin Empire, kids don't like autistic people.
Okay. I'm glad you made the joke because I was too scared to.
Oh, no. So Rel is heavily implied to be on the autism spectrum, and he was bullied. He was cut out from a lot of the socializing.
That was like the one thing that I got from the story. It's like, man, this kid, he is the kid that is last picked for dodgeball, and that sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet, when the man in the wall appeared on board the ship and started to make all these deals with children to get powers to fight, totally not the man in the wall's, responsible for making the adults go crazy. Rel was this individual who decided, I am going to hold this entity back. And to do so, he binds his energy to the Warframe known as Harrow. And Harrow is sort of styled as this almost religious bishop with a censer and essentially this ability to contain the energy of the man in the wall. Except through that quest, we've freed Rel. Harrow is free from holding back the man in the wall. Not that people particularly know that, but at this point, your character will start to actually see these sort of hallucinations on board your ship, and it's kind of fucking creepy. So get ready, Zach, for jump scares, because you'll just be on your ship. You'll hop out of the navigation console in your sort of hub ship between missions, and you'll turn around, and then your operator self will just be sitting on the codex desk saying, "Hey, kiddo."
Why?
And the head will just follow you until you leave the area.
That's one thing that was kind of surprising when I started the Chains of Harrow mission. You start the missions and all the lights are off, and it's like, when did this become a horror game? It was quite a surprise.
So yeah, from really this point onwards, the game takes this sort of turn from sort of cool sci-fi. Wow, look at that, ninjas in space. Ooh, oh, my Warframe's got fire powers. Or mine's got lightning powers. It takes this sort of turn to vaguely religious superstitions, eldritch horrors, the sins of the father kind of narrative. And it just takes a really mature turn, flavoring in this. I would say Warframe has an extremely unique sense of its own philosophy. There's a lot of references to what's considered eternalism and time loops and sort of destiny, if you will, and the fate of characters and all that kind of, you could make a whole curriculum out of it kind of philosophy. But shortly after all this, the man in the wall is out, but what is he doing? We don't know yet. He's just sort of in the background. But motherfucking Ballas comes back into play. Ballas is like, sup, bitches, I'm here now. And there's this, I'm just rushing through the big chunk of it because it's quite sort of in-depth and pretty cinematic. But the next several quests are basically all of those old players, Orokin, Ballas, Sentients, Natar, aka the Lotus, all just coming back and doing things. With you caught in the middle, all of the quests are the sacrifice, the apostasy, the prelude to war, the new war, and effectively what happens in the big chunky big quest that says, are you ready to not play the game actually for a few hours while you do quest time? That it's Armageddon, it's 13th Black Crusade, it's all hands on deck. It's this major cinematic quest where you play as multiple people, including the Warframe, basically going against all this solar system scale space war. It's insane. Like it goes from, haha, go and spy the console, hack the computer, haha, execute all the enemies to, oh, BT dubs, you're in Space Nam.
Damn.
And it's all to do with Ballas and the Sentients, but this all kind of closes up with it. This is going to get into real spoilers territory. So if you're not interested, DC from the episode, not you, Zach. You're staying.
Oh, man. Okay, I guess.
Basically, the cinematic stuff is you lose. Ballas and the Sentients win.
Oh.
You and the Lotus are KIA, and you are sent into the void. Except the man in the wall, the operators, the Tenno, they all are kind of cursed, if you will. You're shunted into the future, another timeline where the Sentients and Ballas have won. They've basically enslaved the whole solar system, and you are a grown-up Tenno, like a young adult Tenno, not just a teenager or whatever. You are doing like almost a guerrilla warfare style thing where you're reaching out to various contacts. You work even with Hun Hao and several of the faction representatives to fight back until eventually you resurrect Natar and go and stick it to the man, and everything's all good again, except that whole arc ends with this huge sort of like, what the hell? As the man in the wall's like, peekaboo, I've been here the whole time.
Wow.
And that really takes us to like the recent few years. But what do you think about, I guess you could say, the first sort of major chapter of the Warframe story that you play as?
No, I think it's pretty good. So the man in the wall doesn't become prevalent till much, much later. I'm assuming after what you've already...
Correct.
Okay. I will say I am a huge sucker for the good guys lose in a story. So
oh yeah, they lose real hard.
How hard? Like two thumbs up hard?
Until you win, but like 2 thumbs up hard until like 3 hours later when you win.
That's all right. Temporary haphazard thumbs up. Nice.
But it's a real like, oh, what kind of moment. Like, in Transformers 3 when the Decepticons enslave Chicago.
Man, I have not watched Transformers in so long, Joshua, but trust you to bring it up.
I knew I'd throw that. I knew I'd throw you with that
first
one.
Movie, I would remember. Anything after that, I don't even think I've watched 4. I haven't watched Bumblebee, but anyway, moving on from that, they enslave Chicago.
It's kind of that where you expect the Autobots to win, and they just flat out don't until the end of the movie when they do, actually.
Okay. Actually, no, I think I have seen 3. Is that the one where Megatron's walking around with like a shawl? Okay, yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because he's all fucked up. Anyway.
Yeah, so by the very end of that, the New War quest line, the older version of the operator ends up having this moment where they are on board the ship that all started this. And this is, how you can sort of see everything being retroactively written. So there's this sort of intermission sequence where in the main quest where your character ends up on the ship, like the ship that set all this into motion. And you end up interacting with a bit of the man in the wall who's just imitating you, but you're talking to him nonetheless. And you sort of are this sort of linchpin where all these sort of various like iotas of possibility begin to connect. You reach out and get the teenage version of the character back from the ship. You get the future version where you'll lose the older operator, the drifter, and it all just kind of binds together. You win hunky-dory. Except from this point on, probably because of the interference of the man in the wall, that ship actually breaks free from the void and becomes another part of the like navigation map that you can then go to and do missions within and get access to all the sort of the ghosts of the past kind of stuff. And it's when all that sort of strange philosophical approach I mentioned starts to really like kick into gear. It goes less from fight the Grineer, now fight the Corpus, to what do you think about destiny? Do you think we can change fate? It starts to really get into that kind of philosophical angle.
More of a deep cut kind of thing. Sit back and make you think.
Yeah, and I think it's when they really decided to move into their own sort of thing, like take their own game with this sort of sense of respect their vision, respect this unique vision they've cultivated. So yeah, you have things like the Zariman with the sort of warp-tainted, the past and the present and the future all happening simultaneously. There are ghosts in the ship. There is multiple versions of you. You can choose to be your younger self, your older self, whatever. We are introduced to the Deviri paradox, which is this fantasy, fable-esque, almost Souls-like-y side version of Warframe. And what that is that through the trauma of the incident on that spaceship where all the adults started to turn, one of the Tenno children, through that void power, actually manifested this pocket dimension, which is the Deviri realm, where a alternate version of your character got stuck in a time loop of just living and dying again and again and again. And that's how they got old, is because they're stuck there for so long until the whole man in the wall stuff, which is like, we're going to move on now. And then, it's a mess. It is quite a mess, but it's just as a narrative device to get you to be able to do multiple things and stuff like that.
To be fair though, like when you have a game that's out for this long, there's going to be so many sort of retcons, and the story isn't going to be as coherent as something that is like pre-written, edited. You know, there's like one or two drafts, and then it's put out. It is what it is. Also, fable-esque for the Deviri realm is a really good way to describe it. At least what I've experienced of it, it is definitely like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you ready for the current arc of the storyline, the where we are now, and what's going on now? What is everyone sort of waiting for pieces of the next pieces of this chapter to come? Are you ready for that?
Lay it on me.
You got some questions?
Do I have any questions? No, not really. I think you've explained it all pretty well.
Thank you, sir. I should know, eh? So we had you wake up, you go through the beginner quest and get a feel for the universe tutorial, if you will. We have the sort of first chapter where all the sins of the past and all the characters of yesteryear all come back to the front for one last swing at each other, right? And you're just caught in the middle. Then we have this sort of brief intermission of fucky wucky time travel, alternate reality stuff. Now we get into hardcore eldritch horror and fringe science.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So the post-New War era, if you will, there's a man, all right? A man that you'll start to see a lot more often going forward, a man known as Albrecht Entrati. Albrecht Entrati is a top dog scientist. He is a Fabius Bile and Eldrad Ulthran, the Emperor, just top of the ladder of smart dudes in this universe. And it was actually Albrecht Entrati himself who found the whole void thing. Albrecht Entrati was the one who cracked open a portal into the void, except as soon as he did so, he found on board his ship a reflection of him that started talking to him as if he knew all of his thoughts and memories. And this would be the first contact with the man in the wall. And Albrecht Entrati knew he had fucked up. And so he retreats, he gets out, he tells his daughter to close the portal behind him, except they weren't quick enough, and a physical manifestation of the man in the wall actually manages to get a hand out through the gate before the portal is shut. His finger bones are well, his fingers are severed at the bone, and then all of a sudden there are these eldritch horror beings like fingers there. We can research it. All of the solar rails that your Warframe like fellow travels through, all those little junctions between the planets, on the rail jack, that strange drive at the back of the ship that seems to be powering it, all of these things are replicas of the fucking man in the wall's finger bones, that sort of void energy.
Oh, okay.
And basically, ever since Albrecht Entrati opened the door to the void and all that, he's been essentially like hunted by the man in the wall and all of his various apparitions and energies and stuff. And what have I told you? There's a whole second half of Deimos that you've not unlocked.
I would believe it.
So Entrati's laboratories, Albrecht's laboratories, is in the Necrolisk. All those mutated individuals, like mother, son, father, daughter, is like his family.
Mm-hmm.
And Deimos itself was unfortunately down with the sickness, and all of the scientists on Deimos became infested. But the actual like deeper heart of their sort of citadel was where Albrecht Entrati had all his laboratories. And this is also where he started to experiment with things like vessels, basically trying to figure out how to deal with this man in the wall threat. And it's like kind of early days as to how it all kind of works. But basically, your character goes to this guy's laboratories because there's all these sort of technological things that keep going off, like old phones start to ring. The Lotus starts to talk about having to fight off the men in the walls, like psychic interference. It's all kind of bonkers, but you start to sort of get all these various characters that are coming around to this sort of idea that there's something out there, we got to get ready for it. But the last major thing to be introduced is the Hex and Warframe 1999. We go back to Y2K, baby.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So in trying to escape from the current timeline, Albrecht Entrati made a teleporter that sent him back to the year 1999. Real world stuff.
Oh, okay. So so there is a story tie-in for this stuff. Okay,
Yep.
Gotcha. Right.
Yep. And so your player character is essentially transported through the whole transference thing, the void technology, to basically follow him into this past reality. It's the eve of 2000, like the year 2000, in a fictional Scandinavian city that's gone into this sort of like lockdown because there's another strain of the infestation that is there. And if I'm not too mistaken, it's sort of put there either by the man in the wall to sort of like try and beat Albrecht Entrati by doing everything in the past before he exists kind of thing, or it was Albrecht trying to create a solution that would then come to fruition later. It's fucky wucky time stuff. But essentially, you are partnered up with the Hex, who are a bunch of human operatives that Albrecht actually infests with the Helminth strain, and they start to turn into Warframes. They have a watered-down version of the mutation, but all of the various characters of the Hex look like some of the early Warframes. The main character, Arthur, is basically Excalibur. His second in command, Aoi, is essentially Mag, so on. Other characters get added to it all, such as like the prototype for Frost, Saren, but they are, by all accounts, people of this time and era that have just been infected with this strain. And the idea of it all is that you're meant to try and defeat this sort of, it's going to happen, Y2K is going to happen, the nuclear reactor at this town is going to blow up and everyone's dead. Your character's trying to stop this sort of reality from occurring. And that's sort of like where the plot is right now. That's the most current sort of time. We've got the whole Albrecht Entrati, man out of time, building up all these weird science mumbo jumbos in multiple realities, or multiple timelines, I should say, to try and stop this fucking eldritch horror Zinch wannabe from the warp. Yeah.
Holy dooly.
Holy dooly, all right?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm amazed I fit all that in under an hour and a half.
Congratulations. Round of applause for Joshua, everyone. Go ahead and stop what you're doing and clap.
I'll be here next week too. Woo!
You'll be here next week.
So, Zach, that is... You don't need the lore summary anymore.
I don't need the lore summary.
I just gave it to you.
No. And you know what? If I forget it all, which I probably will, I can just come back to the episode and listen to it. How convenient.
And you know what? I would encourage you to pay a lot of attention when you're playing the game. Because for the sake of getting the most out of your experience, I skimmed past the finer minutia. The first 40 minutes I really extrapolated on, but all the actual in-game stuff I kind of just skimmed by. I gave you the overarching who, what, where.
I would agree. It would probably be fruitful to do so, but I'm not gonna.
I'm not gonna.
No, I will.
I'm not gonna pay attention.
I will pay attention. Yeah. Now that I'm all caught up.
Yeah. What do you think about the overall plot of the universe, the game, storyline?
A lot going on. There's a lot going on.
It's really hard to break down the most recent couple of years of storyline content because it takes a sort of space opera thing. You know, you got your evil aliens come back. There's a traitor amongst us. Yeah, a very soap opera or space opera thing that you can really wrap it around. And there's oh, by the way, philosophy, time travel, eldritch horrors, blah, 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 blah.
That's kind of what I was going to say in the sense that, you start the game, it's action sci-fi, right? It's very, fun and, futuristic. And then you, at the point that I'm at, you delve into, this kind of, horror aspect and then progresses into, what you said, a sort of a space opera. There's all these sort of, it goes through different genres. I can't say I've played a game like that before, which is, yeah.
But I've enjoyed a lot of the new stuff. A lot of the opening activity stuff. You are definitely just sort of this character caught in the middle of a conflict that never fully resolved by the feel of it all. It kind of is and resume. And the conflict's just going on with you as the player learning all about it simultaneously. But then all of the stuff after that with the whole Deviri thing, the man in the wall, the Albrecht Entrati stuff, your character has a lot more of a main character role.
Right.
And so a lot of what's going on is your character's being the sort of lifting up the rock themselves and seeing what's underneath. You're learning with that character that you're playing as, rather than being just
a passerby.
Yep, Bala sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, 100%.
And yeah, the whole Albrecht's Laboratories stuff on the back half of Deimos is some of my favorite content in the whole game. With the soundtrack, so take Deimos, what you think of it, get rid of it. Now replace it with this almost underground, labyrinthine, desert of bones concept with the occasional indoor, super regal, feudalistic, just opulent architecture featuring the occasional laptop and mobile phone.
Okay.
And then fill it with this biblical angel faction of just weird constructs and robots and rocky flying creatures called the Murmur, a whole new faction. And all that stuff, it's super niche compared to everything else, but I love it. It's so flavorful. It's just dripping with flair that doesn't really feel like anything else I've played.
I will say, and I haven't branched out into a whole lot of MMOs. This game is very unique from what I've played, which is mainly roguelikes and FPS shooters. So it's similar in the sense that it's an FPS shooter, but it's far more deep, as we've just spent the last hour plus discussing
And it gets really deeper too. Like the basic factions that you can join up with in the beginning of the game are basically like merchant vendors. You know, you're introduced to things like the arbiters of hexes, who are basically just like, yes, the Tenno must learn their ways. And that's it. They're just there. And you just give them things and they give you things in return, and that's it, end of it. The open world areas have their own little like conclaves of people, and they're like, can you help us like get this resource? Yes, thank you, here you go. But then when you actually get to the 1999 part with the hex, on your ship's orbiter, no matter where you are, because of time fucky wacky stuff, you can just like hop on your old laptop or your old computer and just have like a dating sim with the fucking members of the hex. You'll just be there like talking to like Arthur or Aoi or Eleanor or whatever. So what? The computer. So you got your navigation console, right? And then next to it's the community tab where it's like, here's the news, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you got your navigation console where you hit it and then you go into all the planets and choose what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Next to it's the community console.
Yeah.
With the news.
With like all the updates and stuff. Yeah. This patch and this. Yeah. Yep.
When you unlock the hex in the 1999 stuff, a literal computer terminal is added next to it. And you hop on and the graphics is like old. It's all pixels and chat forums and stuff like that. And you could either choose a mission from the map and you end up doing like an extermination or a sabotage or an assassination, but in the like fake Scandinavian city.
Right.
And it's a little more open world, but also a little bit closed in. It's a bit in the middle between the other stuff. Mm-hmm. But you're fighting either the weird soldiers with AK rifles, or you're fighting the infestation, but they have computers for heads. You know, it's a little different. But if you're not doing that, you can just go to a terminal that's got like SMS windows with all the various hex members, and the more you rank up their faction and the more other characters get added to it, you can just like talk to them, and you'll like click on their text chat and it'll be like, hey, so like in your time, do you guys have pizza? And you'll have like a dialogue option box, and the idea is you want to get like your chemistry up with each character, and there's fucking romance scenes with all of them.
Oh my god.
This is the game you're currently playing, Zach.
I don't think it is. I think this is the game you're playing. This is not the game that I play. That is crazy.
And there's like a whole and there's like a calendar tab as well, and like every week the game has sort of like Deviri circuits and weekly raids against bosses and stuff to get resources from. Well, the 1999's equivalent of that is a calendar where you're doing like vague quests, defeat 150 enemies with fire, damage weapons or whatever, and it will advance like to the next week. But by doing that, you get little like reward boxes like, oh, Arthur gave you an arcane that you can equip to your Warframe. But so every now and then it'll be like, it's Arthur's birthday. Do you want to wish him a happy birthday?
Brother.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I wish I was being hyperbolic, but I've not said a single lie in this whole thing. It's just like you gotta play. It's so unique. It's as straightforward or as vast as you kind of want it to be after a while. I've barely even touched the hex stuff because it's so dense.
But on the flip side, like, how do you keep the player base that have been there for like as long as you have, or even longer, like engaged? You know, you've got to keep adding these things for people to do.
And they do. They'll either add like a smaller quest, or they'll add a community event. Like they just did the Belly of the Beast event, which actually brought a quest back from ages ago, which takes you through the story of a couple of Warframes that never actually wanted to be Warframes. It was their punishment for a crime they did once upon a time. But one of them was pregnant when she was converted into a Warframe. And so you're playing a Warframe who's trying to protect the baby.
That's crazy.
Like they'll just do stuff like that. Or they'll just be like, hey, we fixed one of the old Warframes from years ago. It's better now. Enjoy. Go play with it.
Well, yeah. They, from what I understand as well, they do like go ahead and balance fix things, which is good too. Like they don't just release stuff and it's broken and then they just let it run rampant. That's good as well.
That would probably have to be the episode, though, unless you got some more closing thoughts, Zach. I got to let you go to bed.
That is true. Honestly, like, yeah, if go check out the game. It's pretty fun. And if you did enjoy this episode and want us to talk about other stuff that Josh is interested in, let us know.
Or you're interested in.
Or Johnny. Or Johnny Boy.
Or Johnny's interested in.
Very busy Johnny.
The lore of Subnautica.
It probably is.
I had an idea to do the lore of Bionicles.
Brother, and you got me recording this? Oh. So anyway, let me tell you how a Lego piece is made.
So anyway, we're trying to sell you a toy, but we came up with this whole movie and book universe.
Do you know like much of the lore of Bionicles? Because I don't.
Oh yeah, most of it.
What, Joshua?
Well, I mean, I have to go back and read it, but when I was in primary and middle school, that was all happening. There in some Australian schools, they would have this like catalog that would go around called like the Scholastic Book Fair, and you could basically tee up what you wanted to order from the book fair, like way before Amazon shopping was a thing.
Well, that was probably like the closest equivalent that we had to like online shopping, at least at our age in that time. Yeah.
And they had like Scholastic was doing like these really small, like kind of Goosebumps size kids novels for the bloody Bionicles, and I think there's like close to 50 of them, and I think I read all of them. I had them all at one point, just about.
Brother.
And then between their like actual toys that would come out, they would have like little magazines or like web comics or stuff as technology became a bit more of like the way to access it all. And yeah, I think there's definitely going to be gaps in my knowledge, but it's all in there somewhere.
Fair enough.
You're thinking, brother.
No, I mean, that's cool. Like, I don't think I ever got that involved into like the lore of it all, but I was a big Bionicle fan. I still have like so many Bionicles. A lot of the pieces have like, dude, Joshua, I'll send you a photo. Dude. I have a tub of Bionicles / like Bionicle stuff.
Zach.
What? You do too? Yeah, nice. Dude, so the piece, the female clip for the ball joints though, they all like a lot of them are gone though. Like that is
sorry, the female clip for the ball joint.
So the ball,
is that what it's called?
Well, but it's a piece that receives. So like if you think of like a female versus male like electrical socket.
Oh, electrical socket, right.
Whatever.
That's what I was thinking of.
Okay. Get your mind out of the gutter, brother. We're talking about Bionicles. So anyway, a lot of those pieces are prone to breaking, and a lot of mine have. But anyway. Hopefully you enjoyed the Warframe talk.
I certainly did. It was definitely a bit of a spur of the moment thing. So let me know if you enjoyed it, and we'll do more rando things in the future.
Yeah.
Like the lore of Bionicles. The lore of Transformers.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, thank you so much, Zach, for being a very attentive student of my law class today.
I'm saluting. You cannot see, but I am.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've learnt so much.
You have, but will you remember it? Or will the man in the wall get you?
I'm sure I also have so much more to learn too.
But now you're going to be less overwhelmed when it happens.
Dude, jumping into that game, crazy. Craziness.
Well, you enjoy doing that. You listeners enjoy whatever you're up to. And we'll catch you with something else soon.
Bye-bye.
Peace be upon you. Watch out for the man in the wall.